The sun had not yet touched the horizon. The garden air was thick with the scent of damp earth and crushed herbs. Mary Magdalene moved with a steady, rhythmic pace, her companions close behind. They carried heavy jars of spices, their knuckles white against the clay. They were walking toward the tomb to finish the rites, their focus narrowed to the task of mourning. As they rounded the final bend, the path widened. Mary stopped. She reached out, catching the arm of the woman beside her. The silence of the garden felt wrong. Ahead, the massive stone that had sealed the entrance was not in place. It had been shoved aside, lying flat against the grass, a jagged shadow in the dim light. Mary dropped the jar. It did not break, but the sound of it hitting the dirt echoed like a gunshot. She ran forward, her boots kicking up dust, her breath hitching in her chest. She reached the threshold and leaned into the dark opening. The burial slab was bare. No body, no shroud, nothing but cold, empty stone. Panic surged through her, sharp and sudden. She turned back to her companions, her hands trembling as she pointed toward the hollow space, unable to find the words. The women burst into the room where the men were hiding, breathless and frantic. Mary spoke, her words tumbling over one another, describing the open tomb and the bare slab. Peter and John exchanged a single look of disbelief, then bolted from the house without a word. They raced through the narrow, winding streets of the city. Peter stumbled in his haste, his boots skidding on the uneven stone, but he did not slow down. They pushed past the market stalls, lungs burning, until the garden entrance appeared. John arrived first, his momentum carrying him to the threshold. He stooped low, peering into the shadows of the chamber. He saw the linen wrappings lying discarded on the stone floor, neatly folded but empty. Peter pushed past him, entering the chamber. There was no body. Only the silence of the morning hung in the air, heavy and absolute. The garden fell into a deep, hollow quiet after the others left. Mary stayed. She knelt near the entrance, her shoulders shaking with the force of her sobs. Every breath was a ragged tear in the silence. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, but the salt and the grief blurred her vision. A shadow fell across the path. Someone was standing behind her. She did not look up, assuming it was the man who tended the grounds. "Sir," she said, her voice cracking, "if you have taken him, tell me where you have laid him. I will go and get him." The man did not move. He did not offer a polite excuse or a direction. He simply stood there, his presence heavy and still. Then, he spoke. A single word. "Mary." The sound hit her like a physical blow. She froze. The cadence was unmistakable. The specific, gentle pitch of that voice, it was him. Her head snapped up. She reached out, her fingers trembling, desperate to anchor herself to the reality of the moment. He stepped back, just out of reach, his gaze steady and clear. The disciples huddled behind heavy wooden doors. The bolts slid tight against the world outside. The air in the room was stale, thick with the scent of unwashed bodies and lingering fear. Every creak of the floorboards made them flinch. When Thomas arrived, he did not share their hushed, frantic energy. He stood by the door, his jaw set, his eyes hard. "Unless I see the marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, I will not believe," he declared. The room went silent. Then, the air shifted. A pressure built behind their ears. A sudden, inexplicable stillness. Jesus stood in their midst. He turned his gaze toward Thomas. He held out his hands, the skin broken and marked. Thomas stared, his breath hitching in his throat. Jesus stepped closer, the space between them closing. Thomas reached out, his fingers shaking. He pressed his hand against the wounds. His knees hit the floorboards with a sharp crack. He looked up, his face pale, his resistance gone. The heavy wooden bolts slid back with a sharp, final snap. The door swung open, and the disciples stepped out of the shadows. The air outside was bright, sharp, and immediate. They did not look back at the room that had held them captive for days. Their movements were no longer hesitant or jagged with panic. They walked into the city streets, their pace steady and deliberate. They carried the news like a weight they were finally ready to share. Death had been defeated. The empty tomb was no longer a mystery to be feared. They moved through the crowds, eyes clear and faces set. The fear that had once anchored them to the floorboards was gone. In the deepest darkness of the morning, life had broken through, and now it would not be contained.